In his book, Hearing God, Dallas Willard shares a story from his early days in the ministry. His family was gathered around the dinner table on Sunday after church, and they were discussing that morning's sermon. The pastor had laid out all of the ways that God had spoken to him and given him a new vision for the church. Dallas remembers his wife's grandmother, Mima, sitting deep in thought before quietly saying, "I wonder why God never speaks to me like that." He recalled this simple comment, which came like a bolt out of the blue from the heart of this woman of unshakable faith and complete devotion, forever changed my attitude toward glib talk about God speaking to us. Mima, in fact, had a richly interactive life with God, as we all knew, but for whatever reasons, she had not been able to relate her experience of God's presence in her life to the idea of God speaking with her. This left her at a loss for how to deal with the conversational side of her friendship with God. Have you ever wondered if God speaks to you? We all want to hear from God, but it all seems so mysterious. A lot of us don't think that we're one of those people who hears from God. You've probably heard a lot of Christians say that they've heard from God, but what does that look like in real life? Is it obvious? Is it audible? Is it something that I think or feel? If I tell people about it, will they think I'm crazy? The truth is, God does speak to us. This is central to our faith. You might have heard prayer explained as talking to God, but prayer is meant to be a conversation with God. Prayer isn't just talking to God, it's hearing from Him too. Actually, prayer happens a lot more than you probably think, whether it's through His Word or conversations with other people, or maybe it's looking at a beautiful painting or a sunrise and just saying thank you. The fact is, God might be speaking to you a lot more than you realize. We read about people in the Bible talking with God and assume they had some special line of communication with Him. But it's not as though God only speaks to a select few with special abilities to hear Him. God made each one of us and knows exactly how to speak to us so we can understand. In John 10, Jesus describes Himself as the Good Shepherd. He says that He knows His sheep and His sheep know Him. They can know His voice above the noise. And then in Matthew 28, Jesus says to His disciples, "And surely I will be with you always, even unto the very end of the age." Jesus is with us always. That means wherever you are, Jesus is too, and when He talks, you can hear His voice above the noise. We can be confident that God is here, and that He individually cares for us and speaks to us every day. We just need to stop and quiet ourselves long enough to listen. The more we do that, the easier it gets to hear Him. A vibrant prayer life isn't just about asking God for things or getting help with making decisions. Prayer is about talking back and forth with God and getting to know Him. A great prayer life happens as you live life with God. Yes, admitting that you have conversations with God might look strange to the world, but here's my question for you. Would you be willing to look a little crazy if it meant you were caught up in an incredible life with God? Experimenting with prayer can be awkward at first. It's humbling. But actually, being humble is a great place to start. It means that we're willing to let God be God and to hear His voice. Today we'll talk more about prayer, and we'll get to practice having a conversation with God together. This will be easier for some of us than others. Again, let's just be honest. Prayer can be a huge roadblock for many of us. But I'm challenging you to embrace this practice and to continue to talk with God this week. We often have no idea what we're missing out on if we'd be only willing to get a little uncomfortable.